Okay, so this is going to be part 2 of our C# text files demo. In last tutorial, we have seen the StreamWriter and StreamReader classes. In this one, we are going to check out the file class and how to write to a file, how to read from a file, and how to append. Okay, that being said, let's dive in. So first thing first, let's declare our string variable that's going to hold our file name, and let's call this file name. The file name I'm going to use is going to be example2.txt. Okay, next, I'm going to create the method static void, and let's call this write. Okay, so inside here, I'm going to call the file class and use the write all text method and open close our parens. So this one requires two parameters. One of them is the string path. The other one is the contents. So we have the file name here. We'll pass that in, copy and paste that. And the second one we don't have yet. So let's create that second parameter. So string. Let's call this str equals, let's call this part 2. Okay, so if I pass that in, we are all set to go. So let's look at our folder. We don't have that yet, example2.txt. This one is from our last tutorial. So if we run this method is going to create the file first and then write this content to it and then close the file. So unlike StreamWriter, we don't have to call the close method. This one automatically closes out. And in case the file already exists, this is going to overwrite it. So a little word of caution there. If your intention is to append to the file, in that case, you probably want to go with the append methods versus write. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. And actually, before we run it, we have to call it. Okay, we are good to go. Let's run it. Let's hit enter. And if we did everything right, we should see a new file in our folder that says part 2. And there it is. All right, perfect. Now I'm going to comment this out and let's check out another method of file class that writes to the file. So the next method I want to check out is going to be write all lines. So write all lines. This one is looking for a path parameter and then a string array to be passed in. So let's pass in our file name first and close this out. Now we need to create our string array. So string array, let's call this str array equals, say, actually curly braces. Inside our curly braces, we'll do something like this: creates the file, writes the content, missing double quotes here, writes the content, and then closes the file. And then if exists, then overrides. So that's our string array. Kind of description of the method. And let's pass that in. Let's pass the string array in. So again, let's check out our folder. So far we have the part 2 already written to it with the first method we tried. Now let's go ahead and call this one more time. All right, let's run this. Enter. And let's check out our file. So now we have 4 lines here. So the string array turned into a file that consists of 4 lines. Okay, so that's what the write all lines does. Okay. All right, so that's the write into a text file. Next, we are going to check out how to append. All right, so let's go ahead and create our second method. Static void. Let's call this append. Okay. All right. Inside our method, we're going to call onto the file class and use the append all text method. This method is looking for 2 parameters: string path, which is our file name, and then the contents. So we don't have the contents yet. Let's close this out and create another string variable here. So string content, let's call this content equals, I'm going to type in the description of the method. So opens the file, and then writes to the file, and then closes the file. If, let's actually break that line into 2 pieces. So if the file exists, then, doesn't exist. Oops. If does not exist, it creates the file, then writes then closes, and that's it. Okay, so let's pass that variable here inside our append all text constructor. Let's pass in the content variable, and let's go up here and comment our first method out and then call append methods. Okay, so if we did everything right, it's going to add this line of text to our file. Okay, so let's run it. Hit enter, check out our folder, and there it is. So this portion was just added to the file. Okay, so that's all good. Let's comment this out and try another method. So the next method is going to be file dot write append all lines. So this one is going to look for the path and enumerable of string contents. So basically we can still use an array because array implements enumerable. All right, so let's first let's pass in our file name, comma, and close this out. And up here, we're going to declare a string variable, string array. And let's call this contents, plural. And inside here, let's copy and paste some of this stuff. Actually, everything. Copy and paste. And then we'll have to turn this into an array. So let's wrap this sentences with double quotes. All right, so let's see if this description makes any sense. So it opens the file, writes to the file, and actually in lines. Okay, so I think we are good there. Let's pass that contents variable now. Doesn't accept it, I guess. Let's see contents, okay. All right, so we're good here. And let's run it. No errors, so let's check our file now. And now we added additional 5 lines here to the end of the file. Okay, so that's append all text and append all lines. Okay, let's comment this out. And the next method is going to be read. All right, so static void read. Right, so we're going to call the file class and use read all text method. So this method is looking for string path. So let's pass that in and close this out. And of course, we want to assign this to a variable, string variable, string, let's call this content equals file.read all text. And then we want to print this out on the screen, and let's pass in our content variable. And that should be it. So if we run this, well, of course, we have to call this from the main. We should get the whole file printed out in one shot on the screen. And there you have it. We have everything printed out. All right, the next method is going to be read all lines. Let's comment this out. So I'm going to create a string array. Actually, before this, I want to call file.read all lines. String path, let's pass in the file name and close this out. And then let's create the variable string array contents, or lines, actually lines better, lines equals file.read all lines. So since this is a collection, an array of string lines, we're going to need a for each loop. So for each string line in lines, we want to print out the line, each line. Okay, to prove that, let's actually add something else here. Let's go with for loop. So for loop for I int I equals 0, I smaller than lines dot length, and inside our loop we want to print out, first we want to print out I, and then plus space plus lines and pass in the index I. Okay, so this will print out the I and add the string to it. So this way we know how many lines we just read and printed out. Okay, let's run this. And we got 9 lines. Well, actually 10 lines. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 9. All right, so that's how you read lines from a text file. Next, I want to do a little error handling. So anytime we are working with external files such as text files, XML files, or any type of files, we want to be prepared for errors because there's always a chance in case the file doesn't exist or it's renamed or it's moved or for any other reason, there's a chance of an exception. So it's good practice to wrap your code with a try-catch block. So I'm gonna do this for the read, but feel free to do it for the rest of them. All right, so I'm gonna do Control KS here and type in try. Oopsie. Control KS again. Try catch block. And on the catch block, what I want to do is let's type in EX here for our instance. And inside here, first I want to do a console.writeLine and print out the message coming from the exception. And next, I want to call the file class and write that message to a file. Okay. So I'm gonna use the append all text method, and in here I'm going to just pass in errors. I'm just going to give it a name here, errors.log, actually errors.txt, and the content is going to be ex.message. So append, if you remember, it's going to append to a file if the file exists. If it doesn't exist, it's going to create the file, add the content, and then close it. So I think that's it. Actually, in addition to the error message, I want to do a timestamp. So I'm going to add a datetime now here to the beginning of the message. So datetime now plus space and then the message, error message. So let's try to force this to cause an exception. And in order to do that, I'm going to change the file name up here from example2 to example3. And now this code should generate an exception. Okay, it's going to come here, it's going to try to read the file, but the file is not there because the name is changed. So it's a different name now. And then it's going to hit the catch block. First, it's going to print out the message to the screen, and then it's going to write the file. All right, so let's run this. Let's actually check out our folders, see we don't have any error.txt yet. So let's run it. Yes, let's go ahead and run it. So the error was printed to the screen. It says could not find the file at this location, and that's the file name. All right, so if I hit enter and close that window and go into our folder, we'll have an error.txt with the timestamp and error message. Okay, so that's it for now. Until the next one, so long.